Hi folks, Lee Pacchia here, and you're watching The Business of Law, where we talk about the multitude of challenges and opportunities facing today's legal profession. I'm joined now by Mark Cohen. He's founder and CEO of Legal Mosaic and author to a multitude of publications in the legal blogosphere. Mark, good to see you. Welcome.
Nice to be here, Lee, as always.
So we're talking about Dentons again. It almost feels like this is all we really talk about, but you have a really interesting story for us today. Again, what is happening in the world of Dentons? Why are they on our radar?
Well, they're on our radar for a lot of reasons, Lee. First of all, as everybody knows, they have had a rapacious growth strategy, which has propelled them from a relatively small firm to the largest firm by headcount in the world. But more than that, their global chairman, Joe Andrew, recently came out with a statement in which he basically admitted that which some of us had suspected for a while, which is that Dentons is now openly saying that in addition to growing its law firm, which as you know is a Swiss Verein, a type of legal network, albeit a single branded one under the Dentons brand. While they're doing that, they are simultaneously also creating a very large, separate and independent network of firms to whom they refer business to and who refers business to them. So it's almost a second or ancillary Dentons law firm network.
Any sense as to how that would work structurally?
Well, the firms in the second, let's call it the secondary network, or the independent law firm network, are a bunch of law firms who have some form of relationship with Dentons, where they will refer certain types of matters to Dentons, the single branded Dentons firm, and in exchange, the single branded Dentons firm will from time to time either have conflicts or matters in jurisdictions where, heaven forbid, they don't actually have physical presence themselves yet. They are going to refer those matters to those other firms. It's a way that Dentons has of sort of extending the reach and breadth of its brand. And I would argue also it's a kind of a plan B in the event that something happens to their core Swiss Verein structure.
So, I mean, help me out here. Like, are they just formalizing their conflicts counsel relationships into something that's a little bit, more standardized and something that can be explained in a handbook, or is something more complicated at play actually taking place here?
Well, I think it's slightly more nuanced than that, Lee. I really do think that it is a strategy that goes beyond the simple issue of conflicts. Of course, as you know, conflicts put a stress on all large firms. And once they get beyond a certain point or a certain number, conflicts really severely impact their ability to grow. And surely that's the case with Dentons, the largest single-branded firm in the world. But at the same time, I think what Dentons is looking to is the fact that as a lot of large law firms are under considerable stress, in part due to a flat demand for their services, in part due to heightened competition, service providers, the big four, all sorts of other reasons. I think Dentons is sort of looking to hedge its bets and trying perhaps to create another structure by which they would be able to monetize the brand that they have developed. I would also say that there's a third prong to it that was just announced since you and I decided that we were going to do this segment, and that is that my article speculated that the fact that Dentons had some months ago created a IT incubator to develop software to be used initially by Dentons and then later perhaps in the commercial market by others. Dentons has now announced that it is providing free to prospective network participants their software. So you've got a combination of Dentons now sort of softly entering the software business and at the same time using this as a way to beef up their own independent law firm network. So Dentons is really now using its brand to sort of diversify the different structures and models by which it hopes to capture significant legal market share.
It's fascinating. This is an organization that's investing a lot of time, energy, and money to become something other than a traditional law firm. We've seen this process play out now for a couple of years running. When you step back and take a look at the totality of everything they've done, how are they doing? Are they making progress here? Is this better than what Dentons, is this project better than what Dentons was 5 years ago?
Well, I guess it really depends on what their objective is. If their objective was to get their 15 minutes of fame, they've certainly done that many times over.
Right, we're on the third 15 in my view.
At least. If their objective was to develop a brand, I think they've successfully done that. Quite what the brand stands for is another question altogether, but it is definitely a known quantity. What it's known for besides its size and its breathtaking growth, I'm not entirely certain. To your question of, is it making money? That's really kind of hard to say. I would say that is probably as difficult to decipher as Donald Trump's finances. They haven't exactly publicly disclosed it, nor, I suspect, are they in a big rush to do so. As you know, they have not decided to participate in the AmLaw 200 survey of PPP. So it's really difficult to peg, quite how profitable they are. However, I would say that in terms of the many different roads to Rome that they have constructed, it is really fairly unique, I think, among law firms. And I think perhaps they are taking the view that if Plan A or Plan B don't work, then perhaps Plan C or D do. Most law firms, as you know, are having a kind of a tough time fashioning the Plan B. Here's a law firm that, like them or not, has definitely got a lot of different plans.
Right. That said, does Dentons have more of a incentive to craft plans B, C, and D? We've had you on before talking about how the partnership structure, the large global Swiss variant that Dentons is employing might be under attack. Do you think that's at play here?
I think it's definitely at play, and I think that they are doing what any smart business people would do, which is if you sense that there is the potential of an existential threat and you can create for yourself viable options, why not do so? And I think that's precisely what they're doing here, and I think it's a very wise strategy.
Yeah, it's amazing though, because they're investing in the future and contingencies like a Fortune 500 company would. But we're talking about a large partnership here. Partners could just as easily take the money that they're going to invest in projects like the ones we're talking about today and put it in their pocket. It's unusual to see an organization act like this.
Well, remember that they are not your traditional partnership. That is to say that the Swiss Verein, which is their present structure, has different partner members. So each one operates its own P&L. And so if you think of it almost through the paradigm of Lloyd's of London, you don't have one particular underwriting syndicate assuming all of the risk. Different syndicates sign up for risks. And I think the same could be said here with Dentons, that there is a kind of a diversification of the risk that's going on here.
Man, I would love to see one of their global partner meetings.
I'm sure it would be highly entertaining. I wonder how democratic it can really afford to be.
So, okay, we've been talking about Dentons in this capacity for a while. Do you have any sense that any other firm is going to take a page from the Dentons operating manual and try to emulate what this firm is doing?
Well, let's put it this way, Lee. I think that if you are looking to other large firms that are doing some interesting things, I would point to DLA Piper, which, as you know, is itself another Swiss Verein law firm. DLA is doing some very interesting things in terms of collaborating with service providers. For example, and I think we've talked about this briefly before, DLA Piper recently signed a deal with a legal services company called Lawyers on Demand, whereby Lawyers on Demand is a so-called agile service provider that provides on-demand lawyers to corporations, and in this instance, to DLA Piper to service clients at a lower price point. I think that's really noteworthy because here you have one of the largest law firms in the world recognizing that its structure does not allow it to provide legal services at the same price points as a legal service provider like Lawyers on Demand. I think that's very significant that they have very publicly locked arms to provide a joint service offering. And by the way, it started out in the UK and very quickly has morphed to Australia and Asia because of its success. So I think that would be another example of a large firm sort of so-called thinking outside the box.
Mark, always a pleasure.
Great to see you, Lee.
Likewise. That's Mark Cohen from Legal Mosaic. If you'd like to see more of the stuff we're working on, be sure to go check us out online. You can find this at mimesislaw.com under the Business of Law tab. If you're listening to us as a podcast, do us a favor and write us a good review in iTunes. It makes all the difference in the world. If you're watching us on YouTube, do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. There's more good stuff coming, I can promise you that. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Help us out on those platforms. I'm Lee Pacchia. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Cybersecurity is a massively complex, systemic issue. Both the private and public sectors are wrestling with it. These are threats that affect everyone around the world, from large institutions down to individuals with a credit card and a social security number. All of these issues around cybersecurity are complex in their own right, and the individual threats that we all face are as numerous as the institutions out there utilizing networks. Cypher is here to help you sort through these issues by covering the cybersecurity news of the day and bringing you the facts straight from the experts in the field. Just like the rest of the Mimesis Law network, Cypher will bring you primary source news pieces from the people who know it best. We'll help you sort through the constant stream of information to help you understand the challenges, the technology, the systems, and the cultures leading to the threats we're continuing to face. I invite you to join us here on Cypher, only from Mimesis Law. So we don't have hardline ethical professional standards on this stuff quite yet.
Well, I think the only standards that we have, I'll take first crack at it, are from the model rules, which say that if you know of something that may be malpractice, you're under an ethical obligation to disclose it. And I think most of us will not view this as malpractice unless we really haven't done what we're supposed to do,